theswirlworld.com, podcast episode 142.
The Swirl World.
Interracial.
Diverse.
Beautiful.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Michelle Matthews Calloway, also known as a Swirl Girl, coming at you on behalf of theswirlworld.com, where we celebrate Black women, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Our overarching mission in the Swirl World is to see you living your best life. And we strive to be a part of that by serving as a resource and a tool you can use to get inspiration, motivation, and information to help you on your journey. Now, I have to say, if I sound a little nasally today, I am laboring under an increased pollen count and my reaction to that pollen count. So, if I sound congested, it's because I am. If I sound nasally, it's because I am breathing through my mouth and not my nose. And so I apologize for that on today. I'm going to try to make this quick so I won't have to subject you to just the way my voice is sounding. So, okay, for the month of February, we've been talking about and answering the question, what's love got to do with it? We quoted just a brief snippet from the song from Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It? What's love but a secondhand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? And I know she was talking primarily of a relationship, but we're branching out a little further than that. We want to take some reflective looks at our lives and who we are as people and how we interact not only with others but with ourselves. So last week we talked about what love has to do with loving ourselves and what that meant and what that looked like. And today we want to talk about what love has to do with loving your life. So now we already defined love. We did that last week, and we said that love is an intense feeling of deep affection. And it's also a great interest and pleasure in something. I love reading. You may love football. People who are foodies love food. We just have a great interest or take pleasure in something, and we consider that love. Love is also a deep romantic affection or attachment for someone, and that usually encompasses the area of relationships. So now when we talk about loving our lives, do you love your life? Or ask the question, what's love got to do with loving your life? Let's define life. And life is a quality in which people, animals, and plants have when they are not dead. And I have to say, when I read that definition, I actually literally laughed out loud. It's the quality that people, animal, and plants have when they are not dead. So it's if you're not dead, then you have life. And yes, that's a basic definition, but it's true when you think about it. And it reminds me of always hearing that statement, where there's life, there's hope. So if something is alive, even if that plant is struggling to live, if it's still green, if leaves are still coming out on it, it has life. So life is also a period of time during which we are alive. And I know this seems pretty basic, but again, I'm talking about life and we're asking and answering questions that are causing us to be reflective. And one of the things I find is that so often we go through quote unquote life on autopilot. Think about it. You take the same trek to work every day. Say you drive to work every day like I do. I can do that on autopilot. I don't even think about it. And one of the reasons I know I do that is I was coming in to the city today, and part of where I had to go was the same route that I take to go to work. And I wanted to stop at a gas station to get something to drink on my way in, and I sailed right past it. Why? Because normally when I'm going to work, I don't stop at the gas station. I just keep going. So I was driving, taking this same route on autopilot. And I literally had to make a U-turn to turn around and come back to get something to drink before I continued to my destination. So I said all that to say, these may seem like basic definitions, but I think if we're honest, some degree of our life may be lived on autopilot. We're not really thinking about what life means for us. So let me go back and define this again, even though it's really basic. Life is a quality which people, animals, and plants have when they are not dead. It's the period of time during which you are alive. And it's the course of existence of an individual, the actions and events that occur in living. Life, and I say that and I'm making air quotes, life consists of everything that happens during that time. We use the phrase, that's life, to describe those very things. Something happens, you stub your toe, you drop a glass and break it, that's life. That's something that happens during the course of existence of an individual. You get your heart broken, like Tina Turner was speaking of. Most of us have pretty much had an apple out of that bag. That's life. That happens. People experience that. And we also use adjectives to describe different kinds of life. What about city life, country life, street life, allergy life? We say those things and an image comes to mind or an understanding comes to mind. We realize and understand what the person is speaking of. So, when we're examining what's love got to do with it, we can ask the question, do you love your life? Do you have a deep affection for or a great interest in pleasure in your life? That's a question only we can answer. And I stated in the intro in the Swirl World that our overarching mission is to see you live your best life, and that we strive to be a resource you can use as a means to that end, and that we strive to provide you with inspiration, motivation, and information, all the things you can use that's designed to help you reach that state of living your best life. But guess what? Ultimately, only you can decide what living your best life means for you and what that looks like. I'm going to say that again. Only you can decide what, quote unquote, living your best life means for you, and only you can decide what that looks like. For some, it may mean achieving a state of financial freedom. For others, it may mean living a life of service. For still others, it may mean having and raising a family. And the list goes on and on and on. And that list is different for everyone. There may be some basic things that are on each of our lists. Of course, I dare say the vast majority of us would put health on that list, which is interesting for me right now because I can't say that I am at 100% health today because of what I'm dealing with allergies. So it's at the forefront of my mind. But I dare say that, there are some things that are basic or generic to each of us as individuals. But when we get into the specifics of what life means and what living our best life means, and even determining whether we love our life, that will vary from person to person. So the list goes on and on. It's different for everybody. But I believe we probably all view living our best life as our unique, personalized version of self-actualization. Self-actualization. The realization or fulfillment of one's talents and potentialities, especially considered as a drive or need that is present in everyone. So we all have it. Not all of us are working toward it, but for those of us who are actively seeking to live our best life, there's something in our mind that we think living our best life looks like. And it means a state of self-actualization for each of us as an individual. And as I said, that will vary from person to person, what that is, what that self actualization is. But in the process of getting there, we have to consider some things I think that are just important to us as human beings and just our interaction and involvement in the world and with other people. Here are just a few things for you to consider as you look at the overall picture of what living your best life looks like and what loving your life looks like. And I want to interject this at this point because we can achieve certain successes and reach certain peaks and pinnacles in our life, but that doesn't necessarily mean we love our life. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a minute. Do you have a continued freshness of appreciation for just life itself? Are you able to, in a sense, stop and smell the roses and appreciate the small things in life? Do you even notice certain things in life? Remember what I said earlier about living on autopilot? When you reach self actualization, you've reached a state where you're able to have a freshness of appreciation of the things that matter in life, large and small. What about acceptance? I believe loving your life and living your best life means you've reached a state of acceptance. First of all, with yourself. We talked about that last week, loving yourself. So you accept who you are. You accept your shortcomings, your quirks, those idiosyncrasies that are unique to you. And guess what? Not just an acceptance of you, but of others. So if you had to put that on a scale, if you had to assign a number from 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, what level of acceptance do you have? And when I talk about accepting yourself, I don't mean that, you say, this is just the way I am, and you don't try to do anything to change, especially those things that you realize are hurtful or even toxic. I'm not talking about that. Those of you who are introverts or extroverts, you accept those things about your personality. Now, there may be times when you have to push past your natural inclinations, but overall, you recognize you either fit in this category or that category. You're either an introvert or extrovert, etc. And you accept that about yourself. And you have friends and loved ones that you recognize where they fit on that spectrum, and you accept them as well. And here's another good one. I actually plan to talk about this particular aspect in greater depth later as we move into more shows. And that's authenticity. How authentic are you? Do you stay true to your core values and beliefs even when you're in environments that challenge you? Authenticity is a big one. And we reach self-actualization when we are authentic. And you see how this keeps going back to loving yourself and understanding who you are? Because when you're authentic, you recognize certain things about you. You recognize certain things about your personality, your flaws, your strong points, all of those things that make you uniquely you. And when you're authentic, you present your authentic self to others. First to yourself, because remember we said in our previous broadcast, you recognize that you have to tell yourself the truth. You reach a point where you don't lie to yourself. And this is especially important when we're talking about relationships, because oftentimes we may see the red flags. We may see that an individual is not good for us, and we press past that. We lie to ourselves. We're not authentic. We're not being our authentic self in being truthful in understanding and recognizing that certain things that people may say or do or habits that they have don't align with our values or don't fit who we are. So authenticity is a big one. Do you stay true to your core values? Do you maintain your dignity and integrity, even when you're in environments and situations that might be undignified? And even when you're around people who are undignified, people who don't align with your true self. What about purpose? Do you have a strong sense of purpose? And that ties in again to that self-worth, that understanding our value, that I have something to offer to the world. Do you recognize that you have a responsibility and a duty to accomplish a certain mission in life? Do you know why you're here? And do you see how all of this ties into loving your life? Because in that quest to live your best life and be your best self, you have to understand these things. Part of even living your best life is understanding your purpose, why you're here. So much of, and we're going to talk about this in just a few minutes, but so much of the joy that comes from living life stems from a recognition of our purpose. Do you have a purpose in life that you know will help the good of mankind? May not mean that you'll be famous and everybody will know your name, but your own particular sphere of influence, the people that you come in contact with. There are people that you are going to meet, people that you interact with, people who do know your name that will never know me. But you have a mission, you have a purpose, you have something to offer that will help those people. So living your best life and loving your life means that you understand your purpose and you're actively working toward it. What about your perception of reality? This goes back to what I was saying about telling ourselves the truth. How realistic are you about your life and about yourself and about the people that you come in contact with? Do you tell yourself the truth? What about your experiences? Do you strive to have peak experiences? Do you have experiences where you sense there are new horizons and possibilities opening up for yourself and even for others? And I think this directly ties into having a strong sense of purpose and recognizing your purpose. I believe that you'll have that sense of seeing open doors instead of closed doors. It's all about your perception of life. Yes, you're being realistic. Yes, because if maybe there's something you desire and it doesn't happen or it doesn't come to pass the way you want it to. But instead of seeing a door that slams shut, you may see a window or you see another way to go about achieving that thing that you desire. In other words, there's not only one way to achieve something, and you have insight into recognizing that there are new horizons and new possibilities. There's another way to achieve this particular goal that it seemed like I may not be able to accomplish. So do you have peak experiences? And then what about your moral intuition? And I'm not talking about religion here necessarily, but I'm speaking of having that moral compass that is guided by something. And when I say something, I mean your belief in a higher power, whether that's God, whatever that means to you, but having good moral intuition, having a moral compass. And that ties into being true to you. Because guess what? When you have a strong sense of what I mentioned earlier about understanding how you have to have authenticity and be your own true self, no matter what your environment or no matter who you're coming in contact with. It's the same with your strong moral compass or strong moral intuition. If something or someone goes against your values, you don't cave. You don't give in to pressure. You don't give in to external pressures or comments or even expectations of other people because you hold true to who you are. You hold true to your moral compass. And if something is invading that or something is seeking to compromise that, you will not yield because you have decided to be authentic No matter what environment you're placed in, you are going to be true to who you are. And that encompasses everything: relationships, interactions, how we conduct ourselves with other people. And then last but not least, what about your level of creativity? How would you describe yourself from a creative standpoint? Do you have a creative attitude or take a creative approach to your work, or again, those interactions with people, or just even to life? Your creativity and having a creative spirit really influences just how you view things. And I understand some people tend to see things in black and white, and that ties into your personality, I would believe. But yet, even with black and white, I was talking with someone the other day who considers themselves a minimalist. Even in minimalism, there's still room for creativity. There's room for creativity in how you express your minimalism. You see where I'm going with that? Say you have an apartment and everything is in black and white. Well, the arrangement of those things can be an expression of your creativity. You don't have to leave creativity out of who you are. And in living and loving your best life, you achieve a level of creativity that best expresses who you are. And again, that's something that's going to vary from person to person or be different from individual to individual. I spoke earlier about self-actualization and how these factors tie into reaching that state of self-actualization where we have realized fulfillment of our talents and potentialities, and there's a drive or a need within us to, in a sense, be all that we can be. So we've set goals and we want to accomplish things and we want to reach a certain place or stage in life. And yes, loving our life is connected to these achievements and accomplishments. But even more so, I venture to say, what's even more so connected to how much I love my life is how much joy life brings me. Because again, you can accomplish a lot of things and be terribly unhappy. You can achieve a lot of the things that were on your list of things that you believe would make you reach a state of self-actualization. But how much joy is it bringing you? And we have to know the difference between being happy and having joy. Happiness is a temporary emotion. We experience feelings ranging from contentment to satisfaction, bliss and pleasure, but it's based on the moment. Whereas joy is something that's stronger and it runs deeper because joy comes from within. It's not affected by external circumstances. You can be in sometimes terrible circumstances, but yet have an inner sense of joy. Why? Because joy stems from a sense of well-being, that connectedness with who you are as a person. And that's something that external factors can't shake. Because again, you are true to you. You know you at your core. You're authentic. And when you're authentic, even if, in a sense, all hell's breaking loose around you, you yet have a deep, abiding, satisfying joy from within. So joy stems from that sense of well-being. Can you honestly say your life, your course of existence, the actions and events that occur in living from day to day bring you joy? Does your life bring you joy? And if it does, then you can honestly say that you love your life. So yeah, now I know I probably had more questions than answers today, but this whole particular episode, as I said at the very beginning, was designed to be reflective. It's designed to jumpstart your thinking and get you to just examining your life. How much of it am I living on autopilot? To what extent or degree am I fully engaged with my life and with the people who are in my life? Am I truly examining my experiences or even my lack of experiences? Do I have happiness that's temporary and based on external factors? Or can I honestly say I experience in my life a deep, abiding joy that stems from a true sense of purpose and well-being? These are questions that only you can answer. And as the saying goes on the label, results will vary. All right, that's it. That's the show for today. I do believe I talked a little longer than I intended, but just thinking about what's love got to do with loving your life and what it really means to experience joy and love the life that I'm living. That's very meaningful. So I had to talk about that a little more today. All right, you all, I will be back next week with part 3. This was part 2. I'll be back with part 3. And in part 3, we're going to discuss, do you love what you do? So you can be thinking about that ahead of time and be ready next week when I come back to discuss it. If I said something today that was particularly meaningful to you, please do send me an email to let me know. I appreciate the emails that I receive and the inboxes that I'm getting on Facebook. For those of you who are fans of the Swirl World on our Facebook pages, and I want to let you know, if you're not a fan, you can become one. Go to facebook.com/The Swirl World, where you will see beautiful pictures of interracial couples. You can also visit our sister page, Beautiful, Powerful Everything, where we celebrate all things Black women, their beauty, and their accomplishments. You can also find us at Military Swirl, which covers military couples who are involved in interracial relationships, over on the blog at theswirlworld.com. And we even converse a little bit on Twitter at aswirlgirl. And also you can find motivational quotes on our Instagram at aswirlgirl. So we're out there on social media. Say hello and let us hear from you. This is our show for today. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to like The Swirl World on Facebook and subscribe to the blog at theswirlworld.com.
Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast or listen directly from our Facebook page.
We can also be heard on SoundCloud and Stitcher Radio.
The Swirl World.
Interracial.
Diverse.
Beautiful.